If you sit and look at your drunk all the time they're drinking, you're just going to feel more freaked out, more worried at the end of it. So don't do it.
Don't spend all your time trying to change things that you can't.
Give it a cuddle to say, of course, if you're anxious. You're living in a situation that will make anybody anxious.
Hello, and welcome to the Bottled Up podcast for families. I'm John.
And I'm Lou. And today we're talking about how to survive the emotional rollercoaster of living with a problem drinker. So, in this wonderful, heartening, harrowing series of the rollercoaster, we get to worry and anxiety. It's kind of par for the course, really, isn't it?
Yes.
In the path that we're walking.
Again, anxiety is one of these ones, which is very pervasive anyway in society, you know, and it's very few people will never have experienced anxiety in their lives.
I think when you're living with the drinker, you almost become really hypervigilant because you're scanning the horizon all the time, both as a mother and a wife.
Yes.
So, again, I talked to him about the difference between concern and what is. I think I've realised in my life. There was a quote by, sometimes they said it was Churchill, I've worried about many, many things in my life, some of which even happened. Yeah. It's just such a potent and very true statement, and that's absolutely true for me. But some of the stuff that you're worrying about, to be perfectly realistic, is likely to happen, but it is important. There's roller coasters coming at you, but you need to concentrate on the roller coaster you're in, trying to keep your feet firm, not getting swallowed up. That's difficult enough without seeing the roller coaster 5 that's out there that might come in, is likely to come in. You can make all those arguments, but you need to deal with the day, one day at a time, literally, is important.
True. I think it's very easy to make, an event seem like a pattern as well. Oh, this always happens, you know, and it doesn't always happen. But, unfortunately with the drinker, it happens often enough.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the problem. But again, we've talked about it, and we'll talk about it again, is kind of stop.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the drinker all the time, because if you do, then, it's very difficult. Distraction can help.
Yeah.
Certainly relaxation can help.
Yeah.
Relaxation techniques.
And we're very lucky now with online. We have a lot of resources. There's one or two major things about peace and things like that. I mean, Calm is a very well-known one. There's music. There's things that can really help you. And certainly I think meditating in whatever way that is helpful for you is taking time out for you to quieten your system and calm it down. And those techniques are really, really important with the anxiety and worry that you feel. Mm-hmm. You might need medication can help if you feel you need to go on that. And there's no shame on that whatsoever.
But what can happen here is that I know I used to do it, which was I would medicate whichever way my my anxiety as soon as it came up. When I was drinking, then I would medicate it with drinking. I'm a wee bit anxious. No, I'm not. That would be one way of doing it. After I got sober, I would run to meetings and things like that. And anytime I felt anxious, I would grab somebody and talk to them, and I did it that way. But the most effective way is to build relaxation into your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a daily basis, whether that be meditation, whether it be going for a walk, going for a run, listening to music, but it's building it in. It's kind of, what's the old saying? Put it in the bank before you need it. Build a canoe before you need it, so that you're not just doing it as required.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I used to do when I got sober, I had terrible anxiety. And when I was drinking, I had horrible anxiety. I used to have panic attacks and all sorts, and that's when I needed to get more drink. When I got sober, I didn't have that luxury as I saw it at that time. So I had to find something, and the something that I found at that time, and I've talked about this a few times, it was the Serenity Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that, I wasn't really using it in a religious sense. I was using it because it was something that calmed me down. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. And the one that I needed most was the wisdom to know the difference. Because I was running about trying to change things I should accept and accept things I should change. So you would find me quite often in toilets, standing, hanging onto a sink in front of a mirror, reciting the Serenity Prayer. And what it did was it just sort of, whether it was the Serenity Prayer, whether it was me taking myself out of the place that was making me anxious, whether it was all of the above, it didn't really matter. That action actually helped me. It didn't calm me down altogether. What it did was it took the edge off to begin with. And that was enough. That was enough. And slowly but surely over the years.
What I think is really powerful, and it's really important to understand this. I developed tinnitus, quite loud tinnitus, a few months ago. And feeling trapped is a horrible feeling. And what I realized I was doing is that I was kind of expelling that fear that was coming up from within. And I suddenly realized that, if it was a child that had come to me and I told it off and sent it in another room, how would that child feel? A whole load worse. And so what I learned to do was to really gather that fear. I learned to embrace it and kind of reassure that part of myself and saying, of course you're scared. You've been through all these terrible things. You've been trapped. And it's almost as if I was promising at that point to take care of myself. And like if you're living with a drinker, gather that emotion of fear. Give it a cuddle to say, of course, you're anxious. You're living in a situation that would make anybody anxious. But we're going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to learn to do this, or we're going to leave. And just to say those reassuring things to yourself, I think is really powerful. It was really, really, really helped me when I suddenly realized I was banishing, but I knew that bit was real. That wasn't a what if. That feeling that was coming up was based on some very real things that happened. And your anxiety is based on some very real things that are going on. And so to reassure yourself that you're listening and that you're going to take care of yourself. And a lot of these kind of podcasts are about learning to take care of yourself in a very difficult situation.
It is. It's again, I make no apologies for repeating it. It's about changing the focus. It's about looking after yourself rather than focusing on the drinker all the time. And that's really, really important. I think one of the things that really struck me was the air hostess.
All right, yes. Yeah, this is really important,
And if you're sitting on a plane, you probably dozed off. The air hostess gets up, exits here, exits there, lights, etc., etc. And the one thing she says, which may not, if you're sitting there with a child or a loved one, may at first seem counterintuitive.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is, when the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first. And you go, no, I must put it on my child.
Absolutely. It's the first thing you think of as a parent.
Yeah, but as you pass out, before you put the oxygen mask on your child, it doesn't help it. It doesn't help it. So you've got to make sure that you're okay so that you can save the child, you know? And the first time it really struck me, I thought, right, yeah. And that's really, in some respects, one of the lessons that we teach in Bottled Up. Look after yourself first. Because if you don't look after yourself, how are you going to look after anybody else?
Yeah. So if you're living with someone who's drunk, they usually get worse towards the end of the day. Often they're high functioning drunks, and at that point, what the energy is, how can I stop them? Was really the question is, how can I take care of me and my children in this situation as best as I possibly can? You start looking at that and solving that problem. And again, we'll talk about this. Just to say, one of the things that will make you less worry, if you sit and look at your drunk all the time they're drinking, you're just going to feel more freaked out, more worried at the end of it. So don't do it. Take yourself away.
Yeah. If I could just reiterate what I was saying earlier on, the Serenity Prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can.
Yeah.
And the wisdom.
Yeah.
It's the wisdom
Yeah.
to know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of encapsulates the whole thing. Don't spend all your time trying to change things that you can't. But there are things that you really can do.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. And I'll just read out a few things from Bottled Up. Bottled Up, by the way, is our book, but there's also one called First Steps Out of Problem Drinking. It's a little £5 book that you can put in the toilet in your home or on the coffee table. This, I think, it would be relevant too. It's a good little series, and there's a First Steps Out of Anxiety by Dr. Kate Middleton, and there's also a First Steps Out of Depression. And there's two or three others in that series. There are £5 there on Amazon. And again, I know when you're living with a drinker, you just feel really tired a lot of the time. You think, I don't think I could read a big book, but if I took a little £5 book with a little bit in, then that maybe will feel manageable for you.
Yeah, and there's even things inside all of them, like myth busters and practical hints summing up the chapter. So it's very easy to read, very quick to read, and very useful.
And very cheap.
And very cheap.
Yes. Okay,
I'm Scottish, I like cheap.
Yeah, well, I like cheap anyway, I'm not Scottish. Right, so these are some of the things that are said about anxiety and worry. These are strategies. Exercise is a great tension reliever. Not only does it help you burn off some of the chemicals associated with anxiety and anger, but it also releases other chemicals, which we now know, endorphins, that make you feel good. Mm-hmm. It increases fitness levels and helps with tiredness.
Yeah. And if you're a bit fitter, you actually feel better within yourself. You feel better within yourself. You feel less overwhelmed by anything that's going on, either physically, emotionally, psychologically.
And you can get on the gym equipment and you can get rid of some of your anger and lose some weight at the same time. Really
Win-win-win situation.
Second point, sharing with others is useful. Having a support network that you can unburden yourself with without feeling self-conscious is a good way of discharging your anxiety. You may also look at techniques such as relaxation CDs and apps and visualizations. Also, having a quiet place that you can escape to can help relieve anxiety. We've kind of mentioned this nature. Nature has great healing qualities.
Yes.
It really does. Walk in the country at seaside or in a local park can soothe jangled nerves and calm a troubled mind.
Your happy place.
Yeah. And even if you can't, you live in the middle of a city, stuck inside, there are lots of places you can go, YouTube and online, that will bring the country to you. And again, that can be really soothing. So use all of those things because there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah. But even in cities, there's usually some kind of green space.
Yeah.
I lived in Glasgow for a long time. More parks than anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, if you feel it's impossible to stop worrying altogether, there's a few techniques that you can try. This one can be quite kind of helpful. Decide you're going to continue to worry, but you're going to limit it. So, for example, allow yourself half an hour a day to worry. Find a place to sit and worry about everything that is bothering you. Then decide that you will not worry again outside that time. This is quite helpful because many of the things we're worrying about are real. So just to say, oh, don't worry, that person will pop up and give you 15 reasons as to why you should be worried and actually just in denial. So you can use a paper or a book or whatever. A book's quite useful. Take some time. So you say to yourself, you're worried, yeah, I will address this, but I'm going to address this in the afternoons. Then take half an hour or a night, write out your concerns and worries, shut the book and put it on a shelf. So you're actually allowing yourself to be realistic. So you're not in denial, but you're actually curtailing, looking at that to a short amount of time. That's really important because you're training your mind and you're learning. Your mind will follow you.
There's also something very symbolic about shutting the book.
Yes, absolutely.
You used to do lots of conferences and things like that where people would write it on paper, throw it in a bin, they would burn it, they would wrap it around a stone, throw it out to sea. Symbolism is actually rather important. It's very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, if you schedule in your worry time, then it allows you to do it and then close the book on it. And that allows you to control. It helps to start to control it.
I mean, it does say if you worry all the time, then you probably think this is pretty ridiculous. But it is a way to start to control your worry. Mm-hmm. But like most techniques, it takes time and effort. This is not in any way a technical way of putting it, but there is a little committee inside of you that genuinely wants to hear all the messages you're giving it and actually interpret them well and do what you want. And in a way, this is kind of cognitive therapy. If you start saying to yourself you're going to do things and you really mean it, to start off with, there'll be a chuckle from your committee because they know you don't mean it and you've been doing it different for 15 years. Mm-hmm. But if you keep then saying it, after a while that committee will start having a little talk amongst itself. I know it's a silly picture, but it is the truth. And think, all right, they actually do mean it. We'll start doing some changes. So, they're called neural pathways, basically. And what you're doing is you're gradually stopping that one pathway. Just closing it down is what I'm looking for. And you're beginning to build another one. But it does take time. Yeah. And you can actually, you can see this happening. When you put these things in, you will find, if you guide yourself down that path, even though there might be a bit of a riot to start off with, eventually that path will begin to open up.
Something slightly less scientific would be the film Inside Out.
Oh, right, yes.
Which I think is really...
It's great.
I think it's very, very insightful.
Yeah.
I love that film just because of the way it kind of treats all the different emotions in the brain. It makes them into a character. And it's interesting watching the interplay of them. It's very, very well done.
It is a wonderful, wonderful film. Yeah. And again, it'll make you laugh, but also it'll give you some understanding of kind of what's going on. The other thing is, and again, I do this, if you came into my room, you would find there is a receptacle that has lots of bits of paper in it. And that's where I put things that are bothering me. Now, the most important thing is you do it as a contract, not a concept. And so what I do with my clients, if they want to do it with their faith, they do. If not, they put it in a box. But what they do is they write out what's concerning them and then they put it in the box, and that box then contains. And so when they're trying to stop themselves from worrying, then they think at that point, because it's become something that's a contract, they remember that, no, it's somewhere else rather than in my psyche, just causing havoc and chaos.
They don't own it anymore.
No. And again, that's really powerful. But I just urge you to do it as a contract. Remember the day you did it. Know when you did it. A little picture, if you like, but it is quite a useful one. And as long as you know you've heard the voice, give it to me, and you've given it to me, then you can work on that and build on that. Basically,
that's a very good picture of that. Again, we're back to the symbolism, and symbolism can be extremely important.
Yeah,
extremely important.
Yeah,
big fan of it.
And then finally, do remember that seeing a therapist or a counsellor to talk through your concerns can greatly ease the burden of worry.
Yes.
And that is true. It might be just a friend who's sitting there listening to you.
Yeah, because sometimes you may think it's obvious what you're anxious about, but that might not actually be the real root of the anxiety. For me, I was really anxious because I didn't have a drink and things, but the real root of my anxiety was how I felt about me. And that people would find out about me. Yeah. That was where the root of that anxiety was. But it came out in all sorts of areas. But once I've found the root of it, then I could start to change things. Yeah. Because anxiety is not immutable or unchangeable. It can be changed. It can be controlled.
Yeah, I was just thinking of John's got a funny thing that always makes me laugh. I think we need to live under a problem shared is a problem halved. John says sometimes a friend in need is a pest, and I think that's what we begin to think, though, that we can't talk to people because we would just be an absolute pest. But that's why I suggest you pick a few friends, and because there's quite a lot going on. And it's Cheryl's turn this time to get the thing.
All I'll say is that with all of these, it takes a while. It takes a while to change them. It took a while to get them in the first place. For them to become an issue, it takes a while to change them again as well. And it's just keep on in there. Some of the things we've talked about might sound just silly. I'm sure that when I was in the height of anxiety and I looked at some of these things and these self-help stuff, but they work. They work if we work at them. It's not a case of take this book 2 times a day. You actually have to open it, read it, and do it. It's like the gym membership. I've got a membership for the gym and it's not working. Yes, have you been? That's the thing. Yeah. So it's keeping going. It's keeping going. There is a theory. Some would say it's much more than a theory. It takes about 30 days to change a habit. And it takes 30 days to reduce a habit as well. Yeah. So, and if we give that amount of time, then things will start to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, be really kind to yourself. This is a very difficult journey, and you might have some days some weeks that you feel you're getting on top of things. Yeah. And again, perhaps you're feeling ill or something else is going on. You may go back to what you think is square one, but it won't be. Actually, it just feels like that. But again, be really kind to yourself, really understanding, gather yourself inside all of your emotions and let your emotions know that you are on their side and that you understand every feeling, because that's really powerful and important.
Yep. Which leaves us with
depression.
Depression, again, is something which a lot of us talk about, I'm feeling depressed today. We're not, we're feeling sad, most of the time. Depression itself is usually a medical term. And there are 2 different types of depression. There's what's called reactive depression, which is reacting to a particular situation, but whether it be a bereavement, a tragedy in your life, there's something,
That's often the depression that is in place when you live with a drinker.
And then there's endogenous depression. Endogenous depression is something which comes from the inside. Usually we're talking about a chemical imbalance here. They can cross over. They can cross over. A reactive depression can become an endogenous depression after a while. But when you look at depression, when you look at the symptoms of depression, you're looking at a kind of complete lethargy. You're looking at a disinterested life. You're looking at how difficult it is to do just about anything. Complete loss of interest. And and at the most severe end, you can be talking about looking at wanting death or even suicide.
And one of the things that I always notice that people are talking about the fact they feel that things can't change. They just really feel very helpless and hopeless. Yeah. And it's kind of one of the conditions that I observe as a counsellor a lot after meeting. But it is important you go and see the doctor if you
feel really, really depressed, you're completely losing interest in life, then yes. Feeling that nothing's working, nothing's helping, then yes, it's worth going to see the doctor. There are 2 ways that tends to be treated. One is the kind of talking therapy when groups and are sitting with a
counsellor.
With a counsellor. The second one tends to be medication. Again, there's very often a crossover. One isn't better than the other. Sometimes one is more at the kind of more severe end of depression. Quite often they would start with medication and then join a group. So both things tend to help. Unfortunately, depression, particularly reactive depression, is much more common with partners or drinkers than and families of drinkers.
I think one of the things that happens, the intensity of the emotions are so strong that you begin to dampen those emotions down.
Yes.
And dampen them down and dampen them down. And so that greyness then becomes a depression. And certainly the connection between suppressed anger and depression is very well established, isn't
Yep.
it? You know,
Yep.
this is why it's really important that you have a place where you can express your emotions
Yep.
rather than repress your emotions,
Yeah.
because there's much more likely that you become depressed if you repress all your emotions.
The medication is to sort of rebalance the chemicals in the brain that are, or up the dopamine levels in the brain. These can help. They can help considerably. But also, as I say, just talking to people, talking to groups of people,
just talking to people about what's going on.
It can really help.
And you don't feel so alone then.
Yeah. Because there is for most of these emotions, there is this terrible feeling of loneliness, being alone in the situation. Again, as I said earlier on, the number of people who, when they come to me, one of the first things that they say is, I thought I was the only one. I thought it was just me. And the answer is no, it's not. It's not. It's not just you. Yeah. It's not just you. But the less we talk about it to other people, then we'll all kind of live in our little silo, apart from each other, and not being able to find out, yes, other people are going through exactly the same situation, and how are they managing with it? And so there's this. That's why it's mutual help groups rather than self-help groups. Because we help each other. We help each other by sharing our experience. People talk about the AA as being a self-help group. It's not. It's a mutual help group. Because you share your experience, your strength, and your hope.
And it is important that you recognise when it's gone from an incident to an issue. And what I mean by that is you're going to have days with your drinker when you feel incredibly sad and down. And that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But where it becomes an issue is every day you feel incredibly sad and down.
Yeah.
That's when I think at that point might be your psyche saying very, very clearly, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you really do need to listen to your psyche at that point. Again, with hyperanxiety, the same thing. Yeah. Panic attacks, I think that is your psyche saying enough is enough. Yeah. And that might be the time when you recognize that even your desire to stay and hang on in there, that your body and your mind is breaking down.
All of these emotions have a purpose.
Yeah.
They're not there just like wars or boils. They're there for a purpose. Usually it's, it's sort of hardwired in the genetic, from our ancestors, that you needed a wee bit of anxiety so that you didn't go and stroke a saber-toothed tiger, Oh, there's a nice kitty, the arm's gone, Anxiety was a good thing then,
And anger says this should not be, and that indicates, that you should not go there and take care of yourself, etc., etc.
But what we are dealing with mostly is when it's kind of misplaced.
That's what we're doing. Do you remember the context of this? The context of this is that we're trying to survive for a while in a situation that we're trying to find a way through. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if I'm sitting with a client and they have anxiety, I will be looking straight away at what's happening in their life and trying to remove all of these things that are stressing them out. And that would be the right thing to do. So these are unique circumstances in very stressful environments and arenas that we're using that, of course, are not ideal. And are not really fitting in a lot of other arenas. But there are people, and certainly have come back to us and to me to a certain extent, that by finding a way through, held the families together, held their relationship together, and we're glad to do it. Mm-hmm. I say that, if you ask me, there's always an ambivalence here. Part of me will say, yes, I think I'm glad to do it. And the other part of me will say, I'm not sure that I was glad to do it. And there is this constant, should I, shouldn't I? And again, that's part of the fact that we're living in a dilemma. Yeah. Should I stay or should I go? So do always remember the arena that we're talking about here. We are not setting precepts for emotional safety or well-being. No. Absolutely not, because we wouldn't bring this set of criteria. This is a temporary kind of input to help you through whilst we look at changing the situation in a more... So please listen to the rest of these podcasts because they're going somewhere. This is helping you contain the emotions whilst we look at what can we do. And that's where we're going to.
We're well aware that these emotions don't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
We're well aware that there is something which is generating a lot of these emotions. But sometimes You have to wait a wee while before you deal with the causes.
Yeah.
But we can deal with some of the symptoms to begin with before.
We need to come out into the open. There is no shame in living with a drinker. In fact, you're probably one of the most, resilient, amazing people on this planet. So don't be ashamed of that. Let's not be ashamed to talk about what's going on.
No.
You don't have to drop your partner in it or whatever, but let's talk. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's not hide away anymore.
Yeah. I think it needs to be more publicised that this is what you're living with. Hopefully that'll start to happen. But unless we come out and share it, and other people know.
And can I just say, for all of the things we've mentioned, I have lived these things. And you may feel very alone at the moment, but we want to say you matter. What you're going through matters. The awful pain. I mean, I spent so many times down the bottom of the garden just breaking my heart with the pain, the worry, the sadness, the anger. And I felt so alone. And if you're feeling that, hear our voices. We're doing this because we care about you, because you really, really matter, because we don't want you to feel alone anymore, because we want you to look at things differently and come at it in a different way, or we would utterly support you to leave. So please take heart that there's many, 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 many people going through what you're going through. It matters. We're here to help you change. From my heart, just here, I do understand. I really do understand. Okay, so what are the takeaways from this then?
Okay, I think the first takeaway really is the fact that you're going to have emotions. You're in a situation where it is difficult and these emotions will come up. But they are normal to the situation. What it does tell you is that you are human and you are reacting to a situation in a normal way. It's an abnormal situation, but normal reactions to that situation.
But you can understand the way forward and you can make changes that really will happen if you persist.
Yes.
Yeah, consistency, I think.
Yeah, we need to look for stress relievers in there. What's the best for you? Is it running? Is it going down the gym? Is it meditation? Is it listening to music? It doesn't matter as long as it works for you.
You will find this really hard. So you must be a friend to yourself. Don't be your inner critic. Be, your cheerleader, not your inner critic. Because believe you me, if we took it all aside and looked at what you're putting up with again, you should get an Oscar for what you're doing. I think that's my word for.
And some days that you're going to forget.
Yeah.
Some days you're going to not do what you should be doing. And that's okay. Do it again the next day. Get back again on the horse. Do it again the next day and the next day.
And surround yourself, if you can, with a few people that really get your journey and know what's going on, because they will resonate with you and you will resonate with them, and that will be so important and so helpful. And listen to your extreme emotions, because they may be giving you a powerful message that you've had enough.
Absolutely.
And if you're really depressed, please go and see a doctor. If you're really struggling, don't hear this as any endorsement to stay where you are.
No.
If you need to go, absolutely, you must go.
Do what's good for you.
Yeah.
Be good to yourself. We'll leave you with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye now. Thank you for listening.
Bye.